BLUNDELL, and welcome to the first episode of my podcast, Down on the Farm. Not only are you down on the farm, but you're down on my farm in southeastern Queensland, where this all takes place. What is the podcast about? Well, it's a very open form of speech and thought and ideas. And tell stories, some tall, some true, sing songs, some old, some new, and basically discuss whatever's going on in people's heads, hearts and minds, philosophy, religion, politics. It's all about getting what's inside out. I am so pleased to introduce my very first special guest, a singer-songwriter without peer. Paul Kelly has said of her, she's paid attention, she's listened to the bush waking up, she's smelled dry summer wheat up close and personal, listened to worries thrashed out around the kitchen table, driven thousands of miles on dirt and bitumen, fallen in and out of love, and told the stories, the things she sees around her bubble up from inside her. Of course, Paul was talking about multiple golden guitar winning, chart-topping, heart-stopping, trail-blazing Sara Storer. Sara, welcome to Down on the Farm.
Thanks so much for having me.
I think you're the perfect fit. I've watched for the last 20 years, or more now, 2000 you started, didn't you? 21 years. But you've always been my favourite in as much as that never once have I had the sense that you were looking for fame. It was never like, this is what I want to do with my life more than anything else. And that's really where I want to start, because before music, you were a school teacher. And it's a quantum leap from school teacher to somebody who stands on stage and holds people's attention, not through syllabus, but through their charisma and what they're saying. So why school teaching at the start? Was that just something you always wanted to do? Or?
I was one of those students that didn't know what they were going to do, and I didn't get a very good school mark. So I put in at university for a few things, and I got into teaching by the skin of my teeth, I reckon. And I got through my final year of university, and they were a bit concerned about whether I should, get my diploma and get going. So I begged them. I said, I can't stay another year in the city. This was in Melbourne. I said, please, all I want to do is go and teach Indigenous kids up north, out in the bush. And they said, well, you're pretty laid back, Sar, so all right, we'll let you pass. And I headed off on a journey up north. I made it as far as Tamworth in Queensland, where I worked for a year there, cooking burgers, fueling, and basically falling in love with being, I guess, a little bit remote and meeting all these wonderful, wild, unique characters of the bush. Even though I grew up on a farm and I grew up in the bush, it was different. It was a little bit more, it was wild and a bit unknown. And I got quite comfy there in Tamworth until the owner said, off you go, you get in there, you've got your teaching diploma now, off you go. So I ended up in Northern Territory teaching out at Kalkaringi, a remote Aboriginal community about 800 kilometres from Darwin. And me and my Magna, Mitsubishi Magna, red with a bull bar, took off. I loved it. 5 years I spent teaching before music entered my life. I mean, music was always there. I'd started writing in Tamworth, and that place inspired. And one man in particular called Harry Chandler inspired my first song. And but I absolutely loved working with the Indigenous kids. It was a wonderful experience for me, and something I'll always treasure and always be really proud that I got the courage up to do something as big as that.
What prompted you to start writing back then? Was it observation? Was it, I don't mean in a judgmental sense, but was it perception on people's characters? What was the stimulus that made you go, I'm going to write that down?
this old fella called Harry Chandler, lived out back for Donga, and I got to sort of sit with him every night, having a lambrusca and hearing his stories of his past and growing up and being a ringer. And it was tough, and it was just like, I sometimes thought, how the hell did these men survive, really, with, you know, some of the things they got up to and how remote it was and tough. So I used to listen, and then I thought, I want to write a song. I'm going to write his story in a song. It might be really terrible, but I'll give it a go. And then I went over and sung it to him. I said, I've written a song for you, Harry. And then I saw him tear up and get emotional. Why would you write a bloody song about me? And then, you know, it's a really wonderful moment in life where you've created something, then you sing it and you're getting feedback.
Having gone from Camwell to Kalkarindji, which is a long way from anywhere, that's 446 k's southwest of Katherine, isn't it? There's not a lot out there.
So many stories. I remember on the way out, this true story, on the way out, there's a lot of fires on the side of the road, and I thought, am I meant to be driving through this or not? You know, is this dangerous? You know, old Milli Molly Magna was going pretty fast through those fires. I didn't know what I was doing. And I came up to this car and caravan. It was one of those old caravans, like an old bubble, you know, the old sort of fashion type.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. So I got up beside him and waved to him and said, you know, pointed like that, flat tire, and he's like, oh, no, like that as he's driving. I thought, oh, God, I'm going to have to pull up, because he looked devastated. And so I pulled up, and we had got past Top End, which is a little fuel stop about halfway between Katherine and Kalkarindji. We passed there. And he came up with this great story about how he'd been shot at, and he showed me his bullet mark, and his wallet had been stolen, all this crazy story, and the wife sitting there, and even the dog that was in the middle. It had one green eye and one blue eye. And I thought, where the hell am I going?
Oh, God. One of the things that I learned in research when he was that the quote I loved was that the kids taught you a great deal more than you taught them. And I think that just shows because you're early 20s.
I think back to so many different experiences there that, you know, their eyes would light up with things I'd tell them, but my eyes would light up just as big and bright when they told me what they get up to. And just learning about their culture, and it was fascinating.
And back to time and place, or time and circumstance, you wouldn't have even set foot in the professional part of the industry except for going to the Adelaide River Talent Quest 2 weeks before the Tamworth Festival in 2000.
Being at the Talent Quest, I didn't win. I was pretty tragic, actually, James. I'd had about... The truth is, I'd had about 30 rums before I got up on stage because I was very nervous and thought, oh, you know what it's like. Nerves can get to you. And I had no idea. So, but the judges could see that I could write a song because I sung an original song, which probably going back was Buffalo Bill. And that then got me into the College of Country Music. And again, I had gone to bed, and Dove Newton from the Bushwhackers said, someone run up and get Sara because Garth Porter's here and I want Garth to hear one of Sara's songs. Garth Porter being well-known country music producer, producing, you know, everybody that was anyone. And so I came down in my pyjamas and I sung Garth. I don't know if there's the pyjamas or the song that won him over, but I hope it was the song. And yeah, and again, being in just at the right place at the right moment, and Garth saying, do you want to stay on in Sydney for a couple of days before you go back to Kalkarindji? Let's just see what happens. I'll take the songs to ABC Music. So yeah, I went to Sydney, recorded a few that I'd written, went back to teaching, and I would say about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from ABC Music saying, would I like to give it a go and make an album?
And in 2004, you were nominated for 8 Golden Guitars and won 7 of them. And I remember very well watching that night going, God, I've been at this a fair while. I've only won 8 across 30-odd years, and she's got that many in one night. she's like so much better. It's ridiculous. A year after winning 7 gold guitars, you wound up on probably one of the most strenuously feminist tours Australia's ever had. It was sort of Australia's Lilith Fair. And so did you enjoy the experience? Because Deb Conway is one of my favourite people, but she doesn't take a lot of backward steps, you know.
Working with a female lineup, you can get really anxious about your own credibility and whether you should be up there or not, and you start to put a lot of pressure on yourself. But then when you get up there, you realise how different everyone is, and it's just a work of art, just another piece of work. So, I guess working with the women, you get to see different personalities too, and it's just a really enjoyable experience. And I think it's enjoyable for the audience too, because if we all sounded the same and had similar personalities, it'd be a pretty old boring show. But you often find there's leaders and followers, and I still get nervous, as you saw at Groundwater. There's a lot of peddling going on.
I love your description. Again, having always just thought of you as a very serene person. In the space of 30 seconds, yet I get on stage and I'm screaming at myself going, what the hell do you think you're doing? And your voice sounds like shit, and how can anybody possibly enjoy this? It takes me about 3 songs and I'm okay, and I'm going, I just thought that was absolutely beautiful and very honest. And, you know, if everybody told the truth, that we have moments like that. You know, it's you can't be, I think that the hard thing about being an entertainer, singer-songwriter is that you are both introverted, because you have to do that for reflection to come up with material, but then you have to be an extrovert to deliver it. So it's a complicated mindset. Is there a piece of music or a song that just really got your attention and changed the way you thought about life to any degree?
One song that had a big impact on my life was listening to my dad in the kitchen. He was on his accordion, so leaving my Nancy O, and he got a tear in his eye, and he'd say, listen to these lines, listen to this song. And, you know, seeing an old farmer with a tear in his eye, I realised how important lyrics are. Not only a good beat, but good lyrics, and how they can have an effect on people.
The saying 3 chords and the truth, country music's strength is 3 chords and the truth. Do you concur? And if so, well, you've really answered the question anyway. Primarily, the first thing you do is make sure that everything that comes out of your mouth makes sense and has some value. So I guess that simplicity is part of the strength of the genre.
Yeah, I love things to be real. I think then as an artist, when you're up on stage, you can sing it and it's got a bit of cred. And you can really, sometimes you can get lost in your songs. I love those moments where I'm singing and I'm actually in the song. And if you really focus, you can do that for every song when you're on stage. So there is a time period before you go on stage really to get yourself into that headspace. But just keeping things real makes it easier when you're on stage, because you can then feel the raw emotions of what the song's about. But it just, again, when you're writing, there's a fine line of how much do you want people to know about your life. I always find my albums have just been my personal diaries. And if you look, see when I've got a bloke, when I haven't got a bloke. And now you know.
When you look back at this, you'll hear yourself saying some things and go, you know, I reckon I've actually got something worth saying. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm a huge fan, have been for years and years.
A pleasure speaking with you today and being number 1. How lucky am I? So things will only get better from here on.
Yeah. So anybody listening, that is the beautiful and amazing Sara Storer. This is the Down on Farm, the podcast, and freedom of speech and free thought and good music. And that's about all we're trying to achieve here. Thanks, Duff. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sara, and thank you for everybody watching and listening. Click the red button to subscribe to the Punktured Media YouTube channel. And I'd particularly like to thank Aussie Hemp Legends, Stylish Outback Clothing, and to the Granite Belt Brewery for sponsoring Down on the Farm. Totally appreciate it. I'm James Blundell, signing off from Down on the Farm, and I'll see you next episode. Shed my inhibition, I've come to know. It's time to get back